Hello and welcome to this edition of Tech24 with me, Rebecca Bowring. Coming up in the programme, Facebook makes friends with investors. We look at what its initial public offering reveals about the social network and why some Facebook users think they should share in the spoils. And is this the end of ugly cables at just 16mm thick? WireSlim's makers say it's invisible. We test out whether transparency is a trend with clear potential. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg has filed to take his company public. It's the biggest IPO in the history of Silicon Valley, beating Google's back in 2004. The social network is expected to seek a $75 to $100 billion valuation. Facebook has 845 million users, which means each one is worth $118. Well, last year, Facebook totted up $3.7 billion in revenue. Not bad for a company just turning 8 years old. But at 27 times that revenue, is Facebook's valuation worth it, Eric Olander?
800 million customers or users is a lot of it, but the number $118 per customer is really, or user is really not the number we should be focusing on. It's the profit number. So they made $1 billion in profit last year, and $1 billion in profit comes out to be just over $1 per user. That number is not as high as I think Wall Street will probably want to see in the future. They want to see more growth out of that. Now here's Facebook's business model. Right now it's selling display ads. They have to figure out how to monetize their mobile platform. They also have to figure out a China strategy if they're going to grow this.
What would you say then to the Facebook users who there's been a backlash, they've been retaliating, saying, well, we provide, with our personal data, the content for this site, they provide the structure, we want to share?
Oh. I mean, I don't even know where to start on how ridiculous that is. I mean, yes, in an ideal world, it absolutely is. But at the end of the day, they're not paying for the servers. They didn't come up with the business plan. They haven't executed on this. I mean, I give Mark Zuckerberg an enormous amount of credit for doing this. There are a lot of problems with Facebook. But this was very similar to the debate that we had with the Huffington Post and the bloggers who contribute content to it. If you don't like Facebook and you feel you have some ownership in it, then you have to go somewhere else. There are plenty of options right now. There's Google+, there's Twitter, there's any number of different social networks that you can use that, you know, you don't have to have the same kind of command. Vote with your membership, but I think that's kind of ridiculous.
What are the benefits for Zuckerberg and co. of going public like this? And are there any for us as users, ultimately?
Well, it's hard to tell. There's a big risk in this for both the users and for Zuck himself. So for Zuckerberg himself is that there's a potential that he could lose control of the company, as has happened with a lot of other companies that have gone public. Now,
he says he's staying firmly in control.
And he is firmly in control. This is not a public offering in the same way that we see of normal companies, where you have an independent board, where you have shareholders who have a voice. They don't. He has got a majority control. This is a minority stake in the company that people can have. He will be able to control the board. So we won't probably see much change in terms of the Zuckerberg aspect of it. He is definitely in control. A lot of analysts have even said, you're not buying stock in Facebook, you're buying stock in Mark Zuckerberg. So that's really one thing. For us, there is a risk, because we like Facebook the way it is now, for the most part. And sure, there's problems with it. It's getting a little complicated. The privacy issues are huge. But if they start adding all sorts of new features to it, it already is bloated. And so if they add more to it, then that is a little bit of a concern. Now, what he's talked about he's going to do is use this money for back-end support, for increasing sales, for trying to monetize other parts of the business. So we may not even see it on the front end.
Could we see ourselves paying one day, though, for premium features in Facebook, for instance? Is it going to be lobbying, do you think?
Hard to imagine, only because there really is a lot of competition in the social networking space. Google is sitting out there with Google+. It won't go anywhere. There are other ones that are out there that are coming up. And Mark Zuckerberg has to be careful of not becoming the next MySpace or the next Friendster. And you saw how quickly those just imploded. Now, it's unlikely that it'll happen with Facebook, given its critical mass, but it's possible.
Talking about imploding, we've had Groupon, we've had Zynga, we've had LinkedIn, all of these IPOs and talk of a bubble. Would you say it's now well-founded with the news of how much Facebook has been valued at?
I don't know. If we talk about bubbles, it really has a reference back to the dot-com days when there was no profitability. There wasn't even any revenue. This is not the case with Facebook. This is a company that made billions in revenue and $1 billion in profit. Now, the valuation might be too high, granted, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bubble. I do believe in some aspects of the social media space, there is a bubble. There's this inflated expectation. But on Facebook, the valuation's probably high, but not extreme.
So in a nutshell, the biggest challenge for Facebook going forward?
Is managing its growth, and it has to continue to grow. And with 800 million people, they're rapidly approaching as many people on the planet that are going to have a Facebook account do. So where are they going to get those new growth from?
That's a staggering statistic. Well, China, presumably, they have to crack that nut. Thanks very much, Eric. Stay with us. Test24's next. Tired of all those ugly wires and leads cluttering up your lounge? Then this week's gadget could change your life. It's an HDMI cable which claims to be the world's flattest and therefore very easy to hide. But is it actually transparent, Eric, as the makers Medtronic say?
Well, we'll get to the new cable first, but let's talk about the old ones. This is a pretty familiar sight for anybody who's got one of those flat panel screen TVs.
Yep.
Cables like this is an HDMI cable, and these are the high-speed cables that can put all those beautiful high-definition images through it, and they dangle through, especially if you want to put this TV on the wall. So here we've got, it's not quite invisible the way they say it, but this is an HDMI cable. Very, very thin, very, very flat. Now the idea here is that you put it up against your wall and then you paint over it, so all of a sudden the cables become invisible.
Nice, yeah.
You connect it to this little connection device, and then this connects into the back of the television. So
good
it is
for families also with, I suppose, pets, with kids. You don't want them to sort of be pulling on cables
possibly,
or chewing
but
through
generally
them.
most parents will beat the living daylights out of their kid if they're pulling on the 4,000-pound, TV dish. So it's really an aesthetic thing.
Right.
This is just a really nice way of covering up cables. So it's aesthetically, I think it's a great idea. So you connect it, you put it flat against the wall, probably put a little bit of tape here just to hold it against the wall, and boom, you paint over it, you don't see the cables. The downside is...
It doesn't come cheap, presumably.
It doesn't come cheap. So it costs 45 euros for 2 meters.
So for a swanky bachelor pad, if you've got a massive flat screen TV,
this would be a nice thing to do. And also, I mean, again, if aesthetics matter to you and all those cables hanging down, you know, you go into a lot of guys' apartments and you see...
I don't.
Well, if you do, there's 14 remote controls and 20 lines of cable going into the Xbox and into, you know, into the game stations and into the TV, into the TiVo player and the Roku player. So this is one effort to start getting away from all those cables that are hanging out. And again, I say guys because they oftentimes have far too many remotes in their apartments.
Okay, well, just to let you know, Eric, the company that makes that is based in France. It's in Touraine, and it specialises in digital TV, audio and phone products, Medtronic. I want to ask you, though, about this trend towards transparency. So we've seen see-through mobile phones, we've seen tablets, screens, TV screens, like the one that I saw at CES, for instance, and also a toaster we found online with an online version of a see-through toaster, which is quite good, in case you want to see if your toaster is burning. Is it practical, though, or is it just kind of sexy? And is this a trend that we're going to see taking off?
It's a very big trend. Now, the invisible toaster I can't speak for, but the idea of technology going into the background is very much a big part of the trend. And you're seeing that with the Kinect and the new TVs that you saw, where you use your body to control the images and to control the experience on TV. So the technology more and more is disappearing. I mean, think about how many tools an iPhone has. Instead, we used to have 4 or 5 things that do what the iPhone does, and now it's consolidated into the iPhone itself. And that's very much a part of the trend, which is, we talked about hybridization of technology, 2 things, 3 things going into one. Technology actually disappearing, elegant, much more elegant technology like this, but this idea that it's going into the background and it's not an invasive experience anymore. That's really the big trend here, what you'll see.
Something we'll be looking out for more and more towards the end of the year. Thanks very much for being with us, Eric Olander. Thank you to you for watching this edition of Tech24. Don't forget to stay in touch on the social network. Now, our closing video this week comes from the 2012 Safer Internet Day. The theme this year is connecting generations and educating each other through surfing safely online. We'll see you again next week.